This is Comic Geek Speak, Special Second Chance Edition, Volume 2. And welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Kevin Moyer. I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And welcome to a continuation of our Second Chance discussion. Since from talking off the air, the four of us in this room right now have some conflicting ideas about what to do with the character and where to take her next. So we're going to put that on the back burner for a little while, and we thought, what if we try to come up with a villain, because every great hero needs an arch nemesis. So we can start with a clean slate and focus on some evil dudes.
Dr. Batty.
Dr. Batty. The listeners are running from their iPods right now.
Doesn't produce a very good visual.
No. No.
But you know what's funny is, like, we what episode was it where I guess it was the top 5 villains when we did that top 5 villain thing a couple episodes back. And you know, a lot of people, not only in the room but on the forum, were like, you know, oh, I really love Magneto, really love Doctor Doom. They have so much history of why they're bad, da 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 da. And I kind of sat back and I went, you know, I like when a villain is just a villain. You know, when for me, for comic books, it's like, I like when they are evil because they want money, power, to rule a world or whatever. You know, not that they grew up in the concentration camp or that they're, you know, all this huge backstory with Doctor Doom now and stuff like that. I'm just throwing this out there because...
well, you make a point. I mean, there is something to that. When you look at the Silver Age of books and you look at those villains and such, I mean, that was never any intention to have them have such as huge, broad backstory. And, you know, that wasn't brought in right away. If things were brought in, it was brought in pieces and developed as it went along, as that villain was portrayed in the books that he was in. So it was developed in a long period of time. It wasn't something that was thrown at you, right. You know, and that's not what, you know, people craved anyway. You know, they latched onto the characters because they were cool or their powers were neat or something. And then when there was a connection, that's when they elaborated more and tried to get, you know, with like the Green Goblin, you know, it was like he was just a villain. You didn't even know who he was. You know, and that was always a cool thing that, you know, finally it's like, well, you don't need to know his identity. You know, and...
I like that aspect a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's more mysterious.
Exactly.
It's like we said in the movies, like the next Spider-Man movie, we want to start out with a villain running down the street having just robbed a bank or whatever. We don't want to worry about right away who they are. It gets it's interesting, but it's boring right in the beginning. First appearance, just a villain, bam, that's it. Right in the middle of the action.
I mean, it does make the interaction between the hero and the villain grander as time goes on.
And sure. I think that's what you need to do as time goes on.
It needs to develop.
But for the first couple of years, they're just a villain.
Just have fun with them.
I just caught up with all the Justice League Unlimited, the first 4 of this new season. I was talking to Shane about it. And they do that in 1 or 2 episodes where it's just a battle. Mm-hmm. The Batman and Vixen and Green Lantern and somebody else maybe were fighting the extremists from the old Justice League Europe. Yep. And they mentioned them by their individual names. I don't think they ever mentioned them by their group name.
No, I don't think so.
But they were just having a battle. And as it opened up, the episode opened up, boom, boom, and you were like, oh, it's the extreme, you know. And that, you know, and to go back to the thing we were talking about, I guess, not that I want all comics to be this way, and I understand why it is. You know, writing got more sophisticated, blah, 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 blah. But doesn't it take away a little bit to humanize villains, I guess, by, you know, as a way to make them sympathize.
It makes you hate them less.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not what you want, because then you're confused. You're like, well, it's the villain, but I kind of like them. And, you know, I mean, there's one thing to like a villain because they look cool or they're a badass. I mean, everybody's, you know, likes those villains just because that's fun to like. But when you start liking, you know, Galactus, because, well, you know, he's all alone, and he can't. To live, he has to destroy planets, and there's nothing he can do, and it's like, it was more fun to just hate Galactus because he's destroying billions of lives in one single shot. So, it adds to him, but it takes away at the same time. So it's a balance that you gotta.
Especially when, like, the big one that was brought up was Magneto, and was that Claremont who added all that backstory, or was some of that also?
I mean, he might have had planted the seed, so to speak, but I don't remember him like developing all that. I don't remember him pushing all that. And
was it even early? Like, did Stan Lee ever? Was that,
not
or
that
Roy
I'm aware
Thomas
of.
was no?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That was, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I may be wrong, but from what I believed is that was brought in later in times in the 80s, early 90s. At that time, I don't believe that was done in anything for the first 20 years that X-Men are around. That there was any backstory that he was Jewish and in a concentration camp, because it did go back that way. Because at one point in the 70s or in the 80s, I'm not 100% sure, but where he regressed, for his age and went back to being young again and then grew up again. So,
right.
That's where I think some of that stuff started to come into play, and they started flushing around with that and playing around with that at that time, and it just sort of developed and progressed. I don't know who would be credited as really actually developing that aspect of the character, but I believe that's where that started to come from.
Because even when he, in 200, took over for Xavier, leading the X-Men, I guess it was kind of interesting because I don't think something like that had ever been done before.
Right.
And I know we're going off on a tangent, but I'm trying to get an idea of like why I enjoy villains. That's, to add to the conversation. But and it was cool because you were still in the back of your mind wondering, okay, is he going to snap? Is he ever going to go back to his ways?
Does he have an ulterior motive?
Yeah, what's really going on here? But then, like, you go through Jim Lee's X-Men where he had his followers and they were kind of cool, and then he was depowered and came back and da 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 da, and then for me in New X-Men when his part in that Morrison's New X-Men was, for me, it was almost like, wow, he's a villain again, and then he left and we got him back again in Excalibur where he's side by side with Professor Xavier again. I'm like, it's just.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something. I don't want all my villains this way, but there's something kind of refreshing when, in Infinite Crisis, Deathstroke says, "This isn't personal; it's business." It's like, yeah, this is a villain.
Right.
Like the Flash Rogues in the Justice League cartoon. Yeah. Whenever we see that episode, they're villains because they're villains.
Right. It can be that simple if you want.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah.
So we want just a nasty son of a bitch.
I mean,
Sure.
You get some of that, like when you say that, what popped in my head was like with Ultimate Spider-Man with Bendis. With him revamping these older villains and creating them new for this series and adapting them for the younger, new audience. There's not tons of backstory on them. You don't have,
not yet, yeah.
You have Elektra and you have, all these other characters that are brought in and they're cool and they're interesting, but there's no deep background to all these characters. There's not depth in their personality, who they are and what they've done and what they experienced and stuff. And it's still fun. It's still cool.
And it may turn out the same way as say, Wolverine's origin. Everyone got excited, but now that it's out there, it's like, okay, it was better when nobody knew anything to a certain extent. It could turn out to be the same way. Everybody will love that nobody knows anything about this villain for years and years and years, hopefully.
You just never know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool things to play with. But I like the Mysteria part of it because it's... what it reminds me of in the heyday of reading when they developed the Hobgoblin. That Green Goblin was in it for 26 issues and nobody knew who he was till they finally revealed his identity as Norman Osborn. But when they brought in the Hobgoblin in issue 238 of Spider-Man, you didn't find out who he was, and actually wasn't the right guy anyway until 289. So I mean, there's 50 issues. That's like 5 years.
Right.
That you were constantly reading these books going like, who is this guy? Trying to figure out who he is. And that was just as much fun as what the shit he was doing with, trying to take down Spider-Man and the Rose and all the Kingpin and all that stuff. He was just a cool villain that you were trying to figure out who he was as he was doing everything. And I think that's why it really sucked the readers into him.
Because I think when you do it that way, what's great about it is it allows the reader to put their own fear of what they inside them, of what they fear, onto that unknown quantity.
You get that feeling like if you were Spider-Man, in essence, that who is the Hobgoblin? Who is, I don't know who this guy is. When's he going to strike next? What's his agenda? What's going on? And that you get that same feeling just as what the character must be going through.
Right.
It's an interesting way to look at it. I didn't think of it that way.
I mean, because they do that a lot. Where, I mean, I don't know if Green Goblin was the first or Hobgoblin or whatever, but where you always see the villain in costume, but the minute they take off their mask, it's always shadowed, and it's like, who is that? They do that.
It's like Claw in Inspector Gadget.
Right.
You never knew who he was.
Or even Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe, there were so many issues where unmasked, you're like, oh, now you're going to see him, and you never, ever saw what he looked like.
And to me, that's disheartening, like when they do have a villain, and it's like he fights for the first or second time, and it's like in the battle, they rip his mask off. Oh, you're so-and-so, and it's like, I didn't want to know that. It's like, if there's some reason behind it, but it seems like it's always intended to do that. It's like, let's show who he is right away so we can get into this whole thing and have the whole plot twist of like, oh, he's been around this guy or he's had this history with this guy. To me, it's more fun to play with it, not so, and let the reader grow as a villain grows as a character.
Even the old Scooby-Doos did that. They waited till the last second to reveal whatever baddie they were up against. And
it makes it seem more soap opera and less superhero.
Right.
When it's, who's the guy that always ties up Penelope?
Dick Dastardly.
Yeah.
Dick Dastardly.
Yeah, I mean,
Not Dirk Diggler.
he's a villain in his own right.
He punishes people.
Okay.
It just seems, like for a villain, when you think of a villain, I never want shades of gray.
Uh-huh.
Now, like I said, I like like with Shade in Starman, is less villain and almost more even mentor, but when you get the real villain way back in the later issues, he's a villain. He's just a villain, and that to me is I like both. I like both, but
there's room for them all.
Oh yeah.
It's just that
when they're really bad, it really works.
Yeah.
When Scourge was kicking ass through the Marvel Universe, and then later in Thunderbolts, it worked. And
you didn't know who he was.
Right. You still, well, yeah, I guess you do, but I guess they figured it out. But that to me is fun. That's like an ultimate villain to me.
And the whole importance behind any character again is to have a good rogues gallery. And if you don't have a cool rogues gallery, then the character is only going to be so dimensional. But to make that rogues gallery popular and for the readers to want to get into that character, they got to want to grow and attach to that character. And it's easy to do it when you rip his mask off and see who he is and see that he's already been established. But it's that extra extra pop that when you're trying to figure out who it is and trying to where this person's coming from or where's this guy, what's his real motivation, what's going on, because as you're doing that, it adds a whole nother layer to reading that book. It's not just figuring out like what's he doing or what's his agenda and how's this hero going to stop him. It's a whole nother layer. It's just a whole nother facet to the universe with the characters that you're working with, and that I think is what really makes a big deal. And when you can have the readers catch on and get into that, then they're along for the ride. They want to see that villain. They want to learn more about him, and you can flush him out more like that. But the longer you stretch that out, the more people are going to crave to find out. So it's a great tool to utilize to keep things interesting and keep it new and fresh. So I agree. I think that's a road I'd like to travel with our villain that we produce.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, because here's the interesting thing: what you said before about if you play in this world of she's an admirer of superheroes, and there's rag magazines about superheroes, and they already exist. Well, then so would the villains.
Sure.
Right.
So then you have a fun, then you have a thing of, okay, does she manage to somehow piss off a villain because of something so small she does affects something so big? There's that road. There's a road of maybe just as she wanted to be a superhero, there's a counterpart of somebody who wanted to be a villain,
Right.
and sees this new hero and decides, oh, now's my chance. Maybe because of every hero needs to have their villain, every villain needs to have their hero. So maybe a new one's on the site, so they jump on it right away. They're like, oh, new hero. Okay, so I'm going to be that villain. So there's some of that.
I mean,
or maybe
go ahead. I'm sorry.
or maybe she has her favorite villain. It's however you want to say it, and so once she gets her power, she says, "I'm going to try to take out Mr. X because that's the guy who I hate the most." And she becomes his arch nemesis because she gets all in his face and tries to stop him. Even though he has more experience than her or whatever, maybe it could be you could take that road too.
What if you, as you are learning about Second Chance, the character, and learning about her motivation for becoming a hero, that on the flip side, that you find out that there is, and it doesn't have to be a female, it could be a male or whatever, but in the same type of aspect that they're fascinated by the hero-villain thing, but they're more fascinated by the villain thing.
Right.
It's their thing. So it almost is a metaphor against her, that as she's doing her decisions and having things happen to her for her becoming a hero, that this person is going through the same thing. So it's almost like a negative side of her.
But does that give too much away about her background that we?
But no, you don't have to get too much in depth with it, but just kind of sort of throw some similarities in there. It's almost like a mirrored version of her, but in the negative way, whereas she's the positive version. So you're getting the polarity thing.
So what you're saying is that whoever that is going to be a politician.
Well, yeah. Which they take no stand on either side.
Because I could almost see...
why not have it a politician?
Because do you think that's been done?
Some way, I don't know. What about somebody who has that motivation, that is... that has ulterior motives, but masks that so they get elected into office and they can gain that sense of power, but then they go out as a villain with powers and kind of make things happen, or kind of try to put things in the way that they feel they should go. Has that? Is it something that you're seeing that's resonated with somebody from before? That
I'm sure everything we've talked about is it's so hard to come up.
In some way, some form touches at some minuscule level,
right? Because what I was going to say is, she goes out and tries her luck on established villains, like what you were talking about, and that obviously she's going to fail.
Absolutely,
absolutely going to fail. So,
I was even thinking that maybe one of their proteges or lesser partners of whatever villain it is took her out, like the big bad.
Yeah, not even.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Go take.
And that's
going
to add some cool stories, because she's going to go out and try, and you're going to have a villain that you're just going to find. He has a cool costume or whatever, and just going to run right over,
Yeah.
And then she's going to whimper back, So it's not going to be something that it gives you a chance to throw out some characters here and there that you could possibly dwell and develop as things go on. But it's just those flash moments of here's a character and she goes and fights him. There's no lead into it, nothing like that. And I think that will give some good jump start for things.
To go with your whole thing about not an in-depth motivation, but just a simple motivation. If she's doing this thing, maybe there is somebody reading the newspaper or watching the news and going, okay, this hero sucks. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to go after her. Mm-hmm. But something goes wrong. I don't know what. And it's not as easy as he or she thinks, because they're not experienced. So then, there's.
I kind of like that. It's kind of like that mirror image in a sense, but
right,
it's like
and not that we would know that.
No,
not that as readers you wouldn't obviously know that. Right. She all of a sudden, like in issue whatever, a villain comes up and she, because you could easily do it on her side where she says, "Oh, I don't know this guy. He's not in the Forbes top 500 supervillain list of the world. And so she might think it's easy. He thinks it's easy. He or she. They go at it. They wind up blowing up 6 blocks of a city, and he becomes if he wanted to be a villain, now he really is a villain. Whether he feels remorse or not, we don't need to know that. Maybe 100 issues down the road, he's crying every night because he did it. I don't know, but
I'm feeling that too, because I'm feeling a he. I'm picturing a man.
Yeah, I think it makes an interesting dynamic.
Right. And I think that's kind of cool, and that kind of lays into what I was thinking as well, that there's some reasoning behind their motivations, but of course, by chance, for themselves, that it does go wrong, that things do change, But that person, I think it would be a cool motivation for a villain, and again, you don't have to establish that immediately, but to look at him and go like, this is crap. I'm sick of these people running around. I'm sick of them thinking they're holier than thou, and have their own wanton ways of doing their things. So this way, this person, and if you just utilizing the politician route, that's their way of gaining an edge, by getting into office and putting on the face, so that's what the people see and that's who they vote for. But he's got this whole back motivation for doing that. And that adds to him as a villain, because the things he wants to do as a villain, he needs to do that to have that. But I could totally picture like seeing that person see her as a hero coming out and doing something good, and just wanting to go kick her ass for doing that. Doesn't have to have like, I know who she is and I blah 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 blah.
But as far as the politician, isn't that like what Lex Luthor has done? He put on the happy face, became president, and slowly manipulated things behind the scenes.
Yeah, but that's I mean, I can see some part of that, but that's not where I'm trying to focus on. Like, I don't want to focus heavy on the politician
You
thing.
wouldn't make him a main character in the book.
Right.
Right.
I'm thinking like it would be more the supervillain aspect of him, but just that the politician is what he chooses to do, because that's a way of manipulating people and manipulating things to go in his direction.
So what kind of crimes does he commit then? Robbing banks, what does he do?
Yeah, because I don't want to focus just on the politics.
Right, no, that's what I'm saying. So when he goes out at night to be evil, what does he do? What crime does he commit? Does he...
But don't you have to connect the two if he's manipulating things in a malicious manner? Wouldn't that be the crimes that he's
every politician does that every day.
And I think it's interesting not to do that. Because
see, I could almost see a very simple, easy way to is she's helping out at a fire or something like that, and it's televised because it's like a 50-story building or something like that, and the new hero, Second Chance, is on the scene, and he goes, "Now's my time."
Yeah.
He sees it. He goes, "You know what? I've been waiting for this. Now's my time, for no other reason other than to make a name for himself."
Make a name for himself, absolutely.
And then maybe that is, so you add that whole tragedy thing by the building falling or something happening,
right?
Not a building, because or something goes wrong, something that she was helping out.
Well, then he attacks her and totally distracts her from what her motivations were at that scene.
Right.
And she doesn't save the people, and people die, and the building, crumbles down.
Because then you are playing on the whole, well, what was his motivation?
Right.
His motivation was just
to be evil.
Yeah.
Shane, let me to go back to your question. Just around here in the Reading area, a couple years ago, there was a story in the newspaper where there was a judge. Successful judge of many years. He was in his 50s or whatever. And, spotless record. He didn't appear to be corrupt in any way or anything. He just did his job. He was busted because he would pretend to be crippled. He would get in a wheelchair, put a blanket on his lap, go through, like, the grocery store and shoplift. Put stuff under the blanket. Why? Because he was a kleptomaniac. It wasn't... It didn't affect his job. He didn't steal things from the courtroom. He didn't get people off of their jail sentence because he was just a kleptomaniac. Just like there are pyromaniacs, just like there are pathological liars. Some people just do bad things because they can't help it.
Well, then he would just be a politician, not a malicious politician manipulating things.
Well, it depends. I mean, you don't have to make it exactly like that, but I'm saying...
Yeah.
I'm just trying to establish a basis that what can I do? What can what would make it interesting? What would make it different from a Lex Luthor? What would make it different from the story Brian just told? How can you utilize points in that will make it work for what we intend to do with it, and also work for the Second Chance character?
Well, to make him different from those things, I think he should be a good politician then, like more like that judge where he is spotless and isn't manipulating things and just likes to be villainous in the evening when nobody knows it.
I mean, you can do it as kind of a... I mean, like what you're talking about with that judge is kind of like a psychological release, because it's that opposite. They want that feeling of that thrill.
Exactly.
So that's the only way they can get that. It's like when you hear about the, big executives who are in control and have so much power that, they'll go to
A dominatrix.
because they want to get dominated, because that's total opposite polarity of what their whole life is.
Right.
So I mean, you can utilize that mental aspect of it to establish who that character is.
There was that recent Man of Steel miniseries, I think it was Azarella, where it basically is touches a little bit on that, where Lex Luthor doesn't see himself as a villain. He sees Superman as the villain, and he sees himself as needing to come up with ways, or needing to show people that nobody knows who this character Superman is, what he's capable of doing, and of course we as readers know the difference. But to go along with the whole villain for villain's sake, I like that idea of just the thrill of it. She's doing it for the thrill of it, basically. So the thrill of it is for him is just
to be bad,
and whatever day job he has just pays the bills to make the equipment that he needs.
Mm-hmm. And true, and it might,
or whatever, yeah,
exactly. And it also could be that you'd have to see if you'd want to play along with the character, that maybe later on he would like to utilize his position to,
as he gets more comfortable with being evil.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
that it would start to spill into his everyday life.
He would do a little bit here, a little bit there,
right,
and it starts to catch up with him or something.
Right.
Because the whole thrill of villainy, maybe he's not thinking he's totally a villain, just looking for that thrill.
I mean, when you hear about actors, when they interview them about making a movie and they get to play the villain, and they've always, it's like, it's fun to be the villain. It's great to be the villain. You have no holds barred. It's just,
it's role playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that adds a sense of freedom that somebody could be desiring to do. And here's somebody that's trying to do that in a good way. And like, screw that. Take the opportunity. I like the opportunity of him making his first appearance, of trashing her right on public TV, worldwide broadcast, using, with the media the way it is nowadays,
Sure.
they overexpose everything.
Everybody
100
needs
times.
their 15 minutes of
That's
fame.
right.
Yeah.
So he might as well not only kick her ass in the process and make a name for himself, but ruin her 15 minutes of fame at the same time.
Right.
So there's more motivations than, there's little snippets of motivation, so there's more facets to the diamond, so to speak.
And in my head, I'm still stuck that he is a politician. It could be something that he set up that he thought was going to do good, and he sees her interfering with something.
But I think then you're going back to motivation, though. I liked your idea of saying that he's completely clean,
right?
And it's just a thrill. I liked it.
Like
it almost borderlines, like you guys were saying, on psychological, on like one of the Batman villains.
Right.
There's just something in the brain that makes them a villain.
Right.
And so to keep it totally motivationalless, or whatever the word is, I like the idea, just flat out whatever he is, it's totally different. Not dual identity, not bipolar.
No. I don't want him.
Right. No wacky shit like
A
that.
switch flicks off,
yeah.
and he doesn't realize. Yeah, I don't want that either.
But and then because he's motivationless, it opens, as a writer, it can open up any door that you want, because he can commit any crime. He doesn't only set fires. He doesn't only kill people.
Right.
He could do anything. And and how can Second Chance predict what he's going to do next? Because the guy's all over the map.
Exactly. That makes it.
And eventually, part of his thrill will be getting back in time to go to his normal job. And nobody knows.
Right. I mean, it's like the guys who rock climb and who base jump and free fall and bungee jump. It's all about the thrill.
Right.
And half the time, those no nicks. The people who parachute into a stadium, they get arrested. It's
right.
That's also part of the thrill of the tension. So
yeah.
So so that for me that's works.
All right. So what's his superpower?
Well, before that, I think I was going to say, if we're going to have somebody like that, obviously for the artists out there, he has to have a full mask.
Mm-hmm. Right.
His facial features need to be totally, absolutely gone. Maybe even every part of his body.
So he's in a giant cardboard box.
See, I'm picturing something kind of like a demon type of mask. Not demon like Mephisto or something like that, but something kind of like a face plate. Maybe have a little
like a Spider-Man 1 Green Goblin-ish kind of mask.
No. Just something that has like kind of an evil grimace.
Well, now here's the thing, though.
It,
if we're saying that he's a thrill seeker, that is just happens, to bend toward the evil, would he want to make it evil, right? Like, would you want to make the first appearance of him evil? Because obviously we're going to go, oh, he's evil, because he's got a demon mask. Like, what I actually was going to mention, and this kind of goes back to our Crusaders thing, is the Black Ghost's mask. Now, obviously, that it's plain and it's what you put onto it. Like, if he wants to be a faceless person, would somebody like that, and like we're saying, we're trying to be total motivation, no motivation whatsoever. Would he go for the evil?
Well,
because it just seems like a
I think that would come after it would bleed into his normal daily life. Then he would become evil and that would be like a costume change or an addition that he would be evil then.
Because would it be interesting? I'm just throwing it out there. Would it be interesting for him to have a very superheroic costume, like a really what he thinks is what people would rally behind, and you think about the things that make a cape, and I don't know, those swashbuckling boots, and it's almost he's playing against that expectations as well.
I mean, I'm trying to put myself in that kind of mentality, in essence, and thinking like if I was that way, and I want to go out and just do some
damage.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of outfit would I want to create? And the first thing that does not pop in my mind is something that's bright and brilliant and
if he wants to be bad, he wants to look bad too.
Yeah,
because you can scare people with it.
I'm feeling like dark purplish and kind of giving some sort of thing to it, which you can still make kind of a cool superhero-ish type costume out of it. But I don't want to make him clean, because I myself, if I was doing something like that, I wouldn't want to. That's not what I would design as a costume for myself.
Some spikes somewhere, some
He's not Lobo.
It's just more of a look. It doesn't even have to have
some unnecessary Liefeld, pocket things.
I like a plain face, not even a mask, just like a plain hood. Not hood like a sweaty hood or something. Just a plain facial cover that he can see through, but you don't see anything. It's just there.
Like featureless.
Yeah, it's just absolutely featureless.
I mean, like, I'm not saying, of course you'll see the aspects of a human face, but I mean...
you'll see like a nose bump. Right, you don't see an eye, nose, nothing.
And that's kind of cool, because then that plays on just...
what that's exactly like is The Futurist. Doesn't he just have like a stocking thing over his head or whatever?
Well, no, but they're talking like, think of like, what is it, Destro and G.I. Joe, where it's like all it's his face, but like maybe the mouth is covered or
no, I'm thinking absolutely nothing.
You're saying, like
take Black Spider-Man's costume and took his eyes right off.
Yeah.
That's what you're left with, just totally solid black.
Like you took a black thing and put it right over your head.
And you can have other shades or something or colors, but for his mask, from the neck up, you see nothing but this thing covering his entire head.
What if we went with the face part was completely covered, but maybe he had some accoutrements on his head or something?
Oh, yeah.
Some spikes or not.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, I saw this kind of.
Well, then you could get your devil aspect.
Yeah, I'm not thinking like horns, but I'm saying like the mask forms like these two, like pointy.
Right,
it comes off the face, and then
because then you don't need to see the eyes. You don't see the
right.
It's all the design of it makes it scary, as opposed to a devil mask. Or
exactly.
Something.
Yeah. I don't want to try to. I don't want to try to pinpoint onto something and try to build off of that.
No, and and what we're hoping is that anybody that's interested in this episode is listening and going. And meanwieall, they're like,
oh yeah, all the artists in are going crazy.
So that we'll get 10 different headshots.
Mike Norton and company.
Yeah. Yeah, because it should. I mean, you think about these nudniks on reality TV. Everybody wants to look glamorous and look cool, and
right.
He wants to look cool.
And who are the
evil,
ones
slick, cool?
Like when you say that, when you talk about reality TV, who are the ones that pop up in your head? Who are the ones you hate?
Puck
from Omarosa. People like that who are just want to like, you're an ass. You're just a freaking ass. But you know what? To them, they're doing what they think is great because they're making a name for themselves. They're being a prick. They're doing what they feel they want to do.
The only character from the real world that I ever remember is Puck.
I kind of hate
I guess we should say Judd Winnick too, but
I hate the creators of reality TV. Period.
Well, I don't watch reality TV, and I'm not a fan of it.
TV producer.
But that's what I'm saying. Who are the people that I'm aware of, and and I hate them, and I don't even watch the shows
I know.
Right.
because of who they are.
But and again, like you think of like J.R. Ewing on Dallas, the man was cool. He had the big white hat and the
grandiose and
Smart-assy smile.
Right. I'm just trying to think of other people like Dynasty. What's her face on Dynasty?
Oh, Joan Collins.
Like their look is very important.
Right.
So the cool as cool as he can be with like I'll throw it back out there the Scourge design in in Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
In like 70 or 50 before 50, whenever that was.
Yeah.
Was so cool. It was cool before when he was just all in like that 1920s, 1930s all white thing in the Marvel.
Right.
But then they made him like this, the horns and this things, and he just was like, he looked cool.
Another example of that, at least in my book, is Deadpool. He might have been a Rob Liefeld creation, and he might be a stupid character, but goddamn, if he doesn't look cool.
Here come the emails.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No, but I mean, he looks cool.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I mean, he does have a
the
cool
toy.
look to him.
He looks cool.
But
I always thought he was cool, even though I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
I should have thought of it even Deadshot without that eyepiece.
Yeah.
His and like the extra pocket stuff that he carries, but his kind of costume.
Who else has like a really cool look to them, like villain wise, that we could maybe
Steel?
use as like
Steel.
Steel? What?
Steel. Deathstroke. It's interesting with Deathstroke. I mean, it kind of plays into the fact that he only has one eye.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of interesting when you can do something like that it has nothing like that. Like you could have a costume that only has one eye.
Yeah.
But yet he still sees out of both eyes. It doesn't have to imply that he only has one eye.
No, he does have one eye.
But I'm saying our character.
You mean our character?
Yeah.
That's true.
Don't get so fucking defensive right away. No, I mean, but those are the kind of things
You
that
could
stick
do
out to
where
me.
he has like one nostril, for some reason. He has
Half
a
a
straw
lip.
coming out of the other
He's got
one.
a hair lip,
whatever.
and
He's got no mouth.
You just see his nose.
But see, some of the things that pop in my head too when I think of like cool characters and cool villains that are just cool because they're flashy is like used to pop with like Electro and
or Shocker.
That they just
Shocker?
had
Well, his costume's kind of cool looking.
Oh, I hate that costume.
Quilt Man, Padded Pete.
That's what it looked like, right?
It's like a quilt.
You mean the brown and the yellow?
Yeah, I think that's cool looking.
It's interesting.
I think I don't know why I keep thinking G.I. Joe characters, but Cobra Commander, you never saw his face. Destro, you never saw his face. Storm Shadow, you never really saw his face. Major Blood had an eye patch.
That's just a cop out for him.
Yeah.
No. Cobra Commander thing is kind of cool because I kind of and maybe that's something that would be kind of cool is to have
That stretchy.
That mirrored
look because you don't have features to it. So then when you kind of look at that person, it's like your own reflection in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So which can kind of a metaphor for yourself in a way also.
Well, I had a thought.
And you lost it.
You said something. I don't know what made me think of it. Or about having one eye. I thought about. Or you said he had no mouth, and I thought, what if he had no face? Obviously, he would have to have a face during the day.
Right.
But what if maybe it ties into a superpower? Maybe it's just one of those ancillary powers that doesn't really give him anything super, but he could do it. He can just whoosh, to having no face, but yet he could still see or still speak, project a voice or hear things. And
I think Shane's probably going to say.
Is that too close to the question?
Yeah.
I never read the question. I don't know anything about
Yeah,
it.
but the thing I'm thinking
It's
is
all
when you're
faces.
saying that to me is like when you see the villain change into the super villain, that he pulls the mask off, and underneath it is like the mirrored, featureless face. But then you could take it a step further, that eventually down the line, that maybe there's something underneath that yet. That not that that's his real face, but he wears that mask of a person on top as he's creating another persona for himself, so to speak. But underneath the mirrored face of that, just using that as an example, that he's totally somebody else. Maybe he's not even, maybe even loses his own awareness of who he really is. That he creates that persona, and then that's such a thrill and a fulfillment for him that he actually then develops a human character of himself as well. I don't know, just something that popped in my head while you were talking about that. But
Then it blends into his everyday life, though, and we want to try to keep it to his. Like unless you're talking way down the road.
oh yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
I'd do that like many moon, but I don't know, just something to kind of flash through there. But I kind of like that featureless mirrored look on the face.
Because it
like,
doesn't even have to be mirror like Cobra Commander. It could be, a dark, like an obsidian type thing.
Right,
It could be a grayish, darkish, purplish, or whatever. It could.
I mean, you look at like
to be
hematite or something like that, where it's it's a dark mineral, but it almost looks kind of silverish in a way, and it would have reflective properties to it. So,
And he's called Last Chance.
nah,
No.
no.
chanceless.
He's the Chancellor.
Oh, geez.
He'll have dice on him and be like, no dice.
Yeah.
Which goes into his whole his political side, the Chancellor.
No, instead of a mirrored head, he could just have a giant disco ball on his head.
Mysterious.
Could project light from every direction of it.
The Hypno Hustler.
Yeah, the superpower thing is always difficult. Like with Second Chance, we tried to go so far away from a traditional superpower, and for this guy, do we want to bring it back to something more traditional? Maybe he has two. Maybe he runs fast, not flash fast, but pretty fast, and he shoots lasers from his eyes. Or
I see him flying.
Yeah,
I was going to say he's got to fly.
Got flying. He's got got enhanced abilities and strength and such.
Yeah.
But does he have one power that just stands out a little more than the rest?
Absolutely.
We don't know what it is, but
what is it?
I don't know.
Hellfire.
I always think fire. I don't
know.
What could be? Because you could always build on his powers and
Energy-wise, could be some kind of energy. Dimensional.
What's a counterpart to what she can do? What would be some kind of counterpart?
He grows older.
Life essence.
I was thinking he pulls life essence from someone. Surrounding crowd, victims.
That'd be kind of a cool thing.
Does he
That
turn
for
it into projectionable power?
That he has to absorb.
Well, that's
energy.
That's like Carnival.
Oh, well, that's when he needs to bring somebody or save somebody.
right.
But I'm saying for him to use his
I'm
powers,
picturing images of...
he has to drain life energy from sources around him
To be able to fly.
to use
be
his
able to
powers
do whatever.
to do what he needs to do.
It's almost the opposite of what she does.
Yeah, and if he needs to, and he needs to develop a lot of power, he would totally wipe somebody clean.
But does that make it way too easy for him to just steal her life essence and then she's...
No,
because maybe for some
because
reason
he
it doesn't
wouldn't want
work
to do
on
that
her.
because
Right.
in a way he needs. What was it?
It
Just
wouldn't
for
work
some
on
reason
her.
it doesn't work on her.
Because
he
of
tries
the
and
way her power is, it cancels out.
it just doesn't work on her.
Which that makes him that much pissed off at her.
Yeah.
Drives him to be more
Because he can't-
focused on her as a hero.
Because
To
there's
want
got to be a way to get her.
So, can he have any power he wants if he has enough energy to do it?
No, I want him to have specific powers, but he needs
Needs
life
power
energy to
them.
fuel them.
There was I just
Does he kill people by stealing their power?
I'm saying
or
he
think
could.
he might.
Like he could take so much life essence that it would knock you unconscious, and it would take you a while to recover till you become conscious again. But I'm saying, like, if he knows that he's going to go up against her, and his powers don't work against her, which totally pisses him off, then he might go to the point where he's
In
like,
the
you know
end,
what,
yeah.
I'm taking all of this person's stuff and try to boost my power, so I might be able to get that edge finally.
You know what's funny is, and this is totally giving the story away, so you can't do this, but, what if he was a district attorney, and he has these powers as the villain, and where he sucks the life essence, and maybe somebody does die, but he just doesn't know who exactly, and as a district attorney, all of a sudden there's a serial killer out killing these people, and during the day he's trying to find who this is. At night,
You should have saved that.
I know. That would have been
Should've
cool,
saved
though.
that.
But
You should have saved that.
but does that make it
well, that's,
because then because then the question is, well, wouldn't he know that that's him?
Well, what if he...
well, would he know?
What if,
How would you?
Brian just
I bumped the button on my chair that makes the hydraulic thing go...
He's got a secret lair under
Go
there.
right.
Wait, let me check my computers.
Okay, what about this, though? What if he doesn't know that he's stealing life energy from places when
Yeah.
he's powering up?
Yeah, that's something you'd have to establish to see if he's...
Because maybe he's relatively new at this gig, and he just knows that, hey...
Because I think it'd be kind of neat that he doesn't, and then finally one time he realizes, like one time he's like, I got to go get her, and then he does that, and then as he's lying away, he sees somebody like,
going limp.
just fell unconscious behind him and like puts two and two together. But then he goes, I don't care.
I don't
Right.
think he
You know,
should
'cause-
look for himself because I think that could be another character in another book.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, you know, when you think about that aspect of it,
So he's like chasing his own tail and doesn't know about it.
yeah, if he knows that it's him,
That
then the motivation is there. That
Right.
he's evil during the day and evil at night, and we don't want that. We want that so clean. So yeah, that's why. Because and the other aspect too, what you're talking about is, it's a comic book thing, but every now and then I enjoy seeing people who have powers that don't know how to. All of a sudden, it's like they get powers and you know exactly what to do with them. You know, the new Firestorm cat, boom. You know, he knows exactly what to do with his powers, and I know a lot of that is
Intuition. And
right because you
you're
you
in tune
walk
with
and
yourself,
when you're,
right.
but even as a human being, you learn how to walk. You
It takes
learn
you a
how-
year, you know?
Yeah, it takes you a long time. So maybe that is exactly we just don't know, and the backstory is that there's strange deaths happening in the city.
Right.
And so everybody out there, forget the past 5 minutes. I'm going to mind wipe you, and so you don't nobody.
Kazatan, I'm hitting you with a big mallet.
Ballot.
But I do like that idea as another. I'm just thinking I like that idea as a character searching for the villain that ends up being himself, and that's a book called Dead End. Because it's dead end. He can never do anything.
Yeah.
Once he finds himself, it's dead end. That's our second book.
I don't know. See, I kind of look at it again. Something like I try to think in terms of myself and put myself in that position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think it's more unique when you come up with a name for a character, whether it's a hero or villain, that has nothing to do with the powers in general. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to establish myself. I am, you know, Solar Man, which you know you can generate solar energy or whatever like that. But I kind of think it's cool, you know, to come up with something. And of course, coming up with Dead End doesn't imply anything. Nobody would take it as anything as far as an implication. But don't sandbag yourself trying to come up with a name or something that.
No, I'm thinking for a totally different character, like
Oh, I
in
thought-
another book.
Yeah, because once we see a design, it might also.
Right. I like that though. I like where it's going.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not solid and it's not set, you know, but
No.
But it doesn't. That's the whole thing, you know. We haven't really cemented her powers either, which might be a good thing for developing the story.
Right.
And you know, okay, so she finds these wings that her husband kind of hodgepodge together, and she sort of figures out how to propel them and fly around a little bit. But I picture her kind of like getting into the heat of battle and forgetting she has to concentrate on flying too. You know, like so the
Oh,
whole
sure,
thing.
sure.
Like, and he'll be doing the same thing. He can't summon enough power.
because then you
and,
get a
know,
neat, cool thing too, where they almost enjoy when they meet up because, you know, if she goes after experienced villain number 5 over there, he's going to wipe the floor with her. But she can test out what she can do on him, and so can he, and it almost becomes a little contest,
right?
You know.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
and again, the motivation isn't that she's totally a hero and that he's, you know, totally. It's there's also that little game, that little cat and mouse game. And,
Yeah.
this is totally off tangent, and it only needs a yes or no because we'll be here forever. Are we dropping the whole de-aging thing with her or no?
Oh no!
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
I think that's still a really cool aspect of it.
Okay. Just making sure.
80-year-old woman flying around.
Yeah.
I'll get you,
Trying to think what
son
else.
of a sea cook.
She hits a wrong air current and snap.
Yeah.
Bones crack.
Yeah, osteoporosis kicks in, and you know, it's all over.
I guess we're done. No. I don't
Well,
know where else.
but that's a really good.
it's
That's
a good
a
starting
really
point.
good springboard and a really good foundation.
I wish I had like no name is really popping into my
Blurting out.
brain.
No,
I
and
would
I
love to
don't-
have
I don't
one,
think
but
it will,
like
yeah.
we didn't come up with Second Chance. Some of the people on the board did, or something. Right?
No, we did.
We
Did
did.
we?
Yeah, it was kind of came up in the discussion. It's something that popped through.
When I listened to the episode again, everybody
Oh, we
kind of
talked about
said
Second chance.
she got a
calling the
second chance.
book
Yeah.
title Second Chance, but then we kind of then we should actually her character will be Second
Chance
Chance,
and
and we
Second
didn't
Chance.
make that connection immediately. I don't think.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't remember. Whatever.
Well, actually, she's like she would only go by chance, and the book is called Second Chance. I think that's kind of what we.
That's what we started with.
Yeah.
The title of the book would be Second Chance.
But her real
But her
name
real
is
her
Chance.
character name would be Chance.
But her superhero name could be Second Chance as well.
Oh, see, I was taking it as her
It could
name
be,
is
but-
Chance, so that the book has a title as opposed to it has a double meaning as opposed to.
I kind of like it as just Chance. I like keeping it simple like that.
Yeah, because I don't know if I'd call myself Second Chance.
Yeah. Because then it kind of puts out, you can see villains poking fun at you. Go, well, you're not going to get it right this time, so.
Yeah. but the title Second Chance, because it gives that double meaning,
Right.
no pun intended. But and again, this is we're not setting this in stone, but I mean his name. It's a shame that Obsidian is taken. Such a cool name.
Yeah, I know. Such a cool character too.
I know.
Void's a name too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. From
Oh, God.
Wildcats with Jim Lee.
You can go
Could be
through
here for
all of
hours
them.
trying
I know.
One thing that I've always done when I created a lot of my characters and done is I use a thesaurus.
I'm typing thesaurus.com as you said that.
I was
That's
gonna
something
say
that I
you have
learned
all those characters. I have
Yeah.
characters. We should have brought in like our book and just said,
We'll do that next time. I'll bring all
you know.
I'll bring all my character designs and lists of characters that I've created, and we can kind of go through and see what pops, see what doesn't, see if there's something that sticks out.
What do you?
I don't want to
Bring
do, and there's some I can't because there's things that I still want to use.
Oh, sure. But me, I mean, I have so many that nothing's being done with them.
Negator.
I can't even think of some that I. Are you there?
I typed in empty just because his face has no expression or whatever. And,
Fruitless, void,
yeah.
Vacuum.
vacuous,
Vacuous.
Hoover.
vacuous, yeah,
Black hole.
aimless, deadpan.
Hollow. But that kind of makes you think of Hollow Man and
Yeah.
that. But that's kind of...
That almost rang to me a little.
Hollow?
Yeah,
That's a
a
movie.
little.
It's close.
Yeah.
Like if you put another word with it, the Hollow or something instead of Hollow Man.
I am the Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow. I don't know.
What's another word for like thin or transparent?
Emaciated, opaque.
Opaque.
Well, but opaque is the opposite of transparent.
Oh, translucent.
Yeah.
Window. I think we're going to try too hard.
Yeah, I think so too.
But
How about lifeguard?
I was also trying to think of the opposite of like
Vain.
If you vain, that's
Vain.
I was trying to think of vain.
V-A-I-N. Vain.
would that be giving away too much of his character? I'm
I don't
vain.
Kind of corny, but
Because again, the idea is that he's a thrill seeker.
that's true.
That's
true.
He would want something that's really cool.
I was trying to think of something the opposite of what his
Flamboyant.
day job would be. Like if we would end up making him a politician that is doing good and blah blah blah, what would the opposite of that be? I mean, not so simplistic as criminal, but
Right.
like servant. But that's kind of what he is doing.
Felon. I'm Dr. Felony. I like that name, actually. I'm going to keep it.
Dr. Felony.
With my sidekick, Little Misdemeanor.
That's in our Johnny DC type book.
Yeah.
I guess Kid Misdemeanor would probably be more.
Hey, I typed in felon, and one of the words that came up is lifer. When you go away for life, you're a lifer. It's kind of interesting because you could look at that as two different ways. Oh, he gives life to people? No, he takes it away because he's freaking
Put in
taking
life.
people's life away.
Put in life.
The
Let's see
culprit.
Death. Yeah. Duh. What do you get?
Chain gang.
Wait, what did you say?
Life. Just
Oh,
put in
life.
life.
I typed lifer. Like a dumbass.
Like totally.
To the max.
Breath. Essence. Entity.
Essence is a good name for a female character.
Yeah. I think it's already.
Vigor.
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 Oil and vigor.
Caution.
Vivacity. Zest.
That's a soap.
Yeah.
I'm Irish Spring.
I'm Dial.
I think I actually have a character called Caution.
You don't like vigor?
No.
It's too close to Vicar.
Why don't you like vigor?
Doesn't
It
say
just doesn't.
anything
It just
to me.
doesn't roll off the tongue, kind of thing. It's
It also doesn't say anything to me.
Well, it doesn't say anything to you.
Yeah.
The
Like when
definition
you
of
said
vigor.
hollow, I went ooh. But there's no instinct there. No gut reaction.
Oomph. What were the couple? Oomph. What were the first couple in that?
The curse.
Breath,
Epoch.
essence.
Epoch is almost too big.
Yeah.
I think there is an epoch, isn't there?
Yeah, it's
Is
on
there?
here.
Yeah, he's
Eon
in,
and epoch and
I don't think is
Epoch.
Epoch a character.
Apox in Matrix.
Well, they got it from me.
Like, we don't want anything like, not doctor, but something, like they always have two names, like, especially if he's a politician, would that trickle in just a little bit, like Mr., like he was saying, senior, alderman, chancellor, I don't know, Chancellor Palpatine.
General Grievous.
What's a title?
Got a lot of grievances with you people.
Yeah. What's a title that sounds cool?
Governor.
Captain.
Well, you have all those. You have Captain.
I know.
Colonel,
I'm just trying
Doctor,
to go through.
Mr. Senor.
This is the point where the audience is screaming
Yeah.
things.
Sure.
Go on, move on.
No, they probably have ideas. At some,
Yeah.
I just meant stop having dead air.
Commander.
Sir.
Commandant.
S-I-R,
Commandant.
sir. If you
SYR.
there you
Sire.
Swir. Sir.
go. Sir, swear.
Swear.
Maybe he can carry a
No.
sword.
That's freaking swear.
It's Sir, but he just spells it SYR. Sir.
That's cool.
Something,
Just call me sir.
Just call me Sir.
How is sire actually spelled though?
S-I-R-E.
S-I-R-E.
I kind of like that.
Sir.
Sir.
Would you
SYR.
Sir something or just Sir?
I don't know. I just like sir.
Sir. Should we leave it up to them? I don't-
Sir Hollow.
Sir.
Swallow.
Sounds like brave Sir Hollow.
I'm Sir. Sir.
You stupid English Canadian.
Serpent.
I like Sir Hollow. I'm on board with that.
I don't know. I know there's probably a
I just
title
think that's
out
kind
there.
of wild. Sir, S-Y-R, sir. It's so.
But nobody would know how to spell it except him.
Which could be made for some funny.
I'm getting more pissed off.
Call me Sir.
I don't know. Type that in, sir.
S-I-R.
Not S-Y-R. Try S-I-R. See what you get with
Hold
that.
on, I was looking for something.
I just think it's kind of it's so indirect. You know what I mean? It's like it's so open. It's kind of neat because it's like it's not really focusing on anything in particular, but yet it's kind of dynamic in a way. What?
Enigma.
One of the main entries for Sir is man, and they have ape, bow, beefcake, blade, bloke, bub, buster, butch,
Jock, Lord, Macho,
husband, jock, lord, lover, macho, master,
Stud.
mister, old
Spouse.
man, papa, pops,
Swain,
stud,
Wolf.
swain, and wolf.
Gentleman, Beau. We'll call him Beau.
B-A-U.
Sir bloke. Oh, what?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think we're not finding.
But something along that line of, like, you don't want it like Dr. Death. It can't be something like that.
Because you wouldn't call yourself that. You
Yeah.
want to come up
You
with
want
something really
something cool
stylish.
that's like-
Yeah.
Sir magma.
Liquid hot.
There's
What's
a reason
another name
why
for a vacuum?
Sir creatine.
What's another name for a vacuum? Like
Did
since
you
he
put in vacuum
draws stuff out and creates a void or a vacuum.
Vacuums.
Hoover.
I said that like a half an
It's
hour.
Electrolux.
Really?
Yeah.
Carpet sweeper.
Void came up, of course.
Yeah.
Gap.
Not a lot of sweeper.
Exhaust.
Abyss. Cavity.
Abyss.
Abyss.
Cavity.
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 Sounds like he's a tooth guy.
No, empty space, a cavity, an empty. You see, you
Chasm.
guys,
I think Abyss would be
you
better.
guys need
for
a
that.
better vocabulary. And then,
Oh, I
No, I'm
think
just
we're
saying
doing
what
fine. I
pops
think
in my head.
But
yeah.
yeah, the first thing I think is tooth.
Yeah, it's like.
That's what I mean. If you
Like he
have
runs around with a big toothbrush.
That's not
and shit.
when I see. I only ever had one cavity, so I don't think of that. I think of
With
the
my
empty
sidekick.
like the cavity between the walls.
Right.
I'm Cavity with my sidekick Plaque.
Now we're getting stupid.
Cavern.
Vacant.
Womb.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Omission.
Come to my back womb.
Omission.
Put in dark.
I'd have a name 10 times already. You guys are too picky.
We should write some of these down. Well, we listen to it.
Yeah.
We'll make other villains. We'll make other.
Thank goodness.
What you get?
Dusk.
Eh,
Gloomy.
Caligonus.
Nice.
Dusk is a slinger, right? One
Yeah.
of those spy- That's a shame because that's not a bad name, Dusk.
Yeah, but I mean, that person. I mean, haven't used that and
Somber.
Sleepy time.
vague.
Brunette.
What the heck?
A Dumbrel. Sable. Swarthy.
Overcast. Nebulous.
Overkill.
Overt kill.
Cryptic.
I was gonna say-
Arcane.
I was gonna say Nebulon, but that's a Marvel character.
Intricate. Puzzling.
Puzzle.
Esoteric.
The puzzle.
The puzzler.
Sir Puzzle.
We have the answer. We have the question. Now we have the puzzle.
That definitely leads for a crossover.
Oh.
Morbid. Dismal.
We're not gonna really try to come up with a name, are we?
Nah, that's
Yeah,
bleak.
Yeah.
It's just that's our character because
Yeah.
that's where we're at right now. Bleak.
Just
I
gonna.
don't
call
know.
him-
I think we got some good stuff going.
Yeah, like let's see if anybody can come up with some
Yeah.
kind of cool
Yeah.
design. I mean, we talked about the face, but we left all the rest of it pretty much.
It would still be
Open.
kind of vacant. I don't see him having a lot of fanfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see like an overly designed or overly elaborate
No.
costume. I want it kind
As much as I like capes, I don't even know that I see him with a cape.
I don't picture him with a cape, but I'm not saying it wouldn't work either.
I'd see him with a not a leather jacket because I certainly don't want X-Men uniforms, but just like a black outfit, black coat, black boots, black
I like
gray.
the dark purple. I think it kind of adds a little color to him and gives him some sustenance.
There's something to say about some villains that wear like kind of like what Magneto wore in the movie X-Men. Like it's a tunic suit
Yeah.
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yes.
Like there's that it's a little bit longer. It almost looks like tails in a way, but not like tuxedo. But
Right.
there's something kind of because I think he would
sort of like Neo has in the second Matrix, where he has a cape-esque quality to
Mhm.
the
Because of
coat.
cloak.
right. Like something like that would be cool. Like something that looks like what a cool future politician would wear.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that spills over into his mind when he's designing this. I mean, because
Yeah,
somebody's
I
got
see
to
what you're
design
saying.
this damn thing. He's
Right.
not going to just do it himself.
Yeah, and I don't want to do the cloak with things because I
No.
want to stay away from that.
You don't want to go.
But I kind of think I see what you're saying. Like if you're thinking futuristic and what you'd see like when you've seen in movies or other things of what they had politicians or
it almost
establishments what they wore. They
it's
had-
almost a throwback to like Greek and Roman times. With like the stuff that
Sash.
the stuff that always crosses the body and da 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 da. But and still is.
Well, yeah,
all
because
he has to do is remove one thing and it underneath becomes this thing that he can fight with. But it still gives him a sense of something. He's going to think of himself higher up than just
Right.
So
Right.
He wouldn't do the tunics. He's not going to do
no.
a belt per se. It's not going to be your standards. He's going to want to look
Sleek.
yeah,
We'll work on it.
a supervillain businessman's. Go through the J. Crew magazines or wherever else and mold it with a motorcycle magazine and
Carry your
magazine.
briefcase and
On that
saddlebags.
note,
Yeah. All
I
right.
think that's
Well,
enough
that
for
gives us
them.
something
To
Yeah,
to run.
that
Yeah,
gives
it
us
gives-
definitely enough as a starting point.
to play with and have fun with.
And then next month we'll visit it again with
Something else.
something
A
else.
new, fresh look at it.
And hopefully by then, these guys in our audience will have paper, pencil to paper, and come up with some cool ideas and post them on the forum. And
Keep the ball rolling.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Take it to the next level.
All right, dogs.
We're out of here.
See ya.
Yeah.
We're gonna go commit crimes.
Yes. I want to get really into my character.